efficiency, if we're overhead irrigating, we have the same problem with rainfall. We're always going to lose about 10% of the water in each water application, unless we use some type of system that is not overhead. We'll talk about that in a second. But basically, we're looking for our plant to get as much water to go into the root system and then go back out of the plant through the leaf in something we call transpiration. That's the driver of the whole sugar production system that grows our food. When we link that together with evaporation from the leaf surface, so like a water droplet that never makes it to the root system but evaporates, or from the soil surface, we call that evapotranspiration. So we'll talk about that in a second. But our overhead irrigation at best is about 90% effective. We'll talk about some other systems in a second. One of the quick questions that people are going to have is, well, can I use the water? Who owns the water? And if you have land, the water rights go with the land. It is considered to be a asset of the community. So the state of Michigan actually says it belongs to the state of Michigan. Indiana is slightly different. But east of the Mississippi, all of our states follow something they call the Riparian Doctrine. Not a law, but a doctrine. And what this is set up is it's going to be the set of laws or determinations that went to the appellate level or higher that in your state. So in Michigan, we've got about 34 appellate level rulings that make up our Riparian Doctrine. And basically, you can use the water available on your land from either surface water or wells, but you cannot sell that right to someone else. In Michigan, we acknowledge, and in Indiana, we acknowledge that groundwater is shared underneath, and we allow cities to put wells out in the country and transport water back into, but we do not allow that from surface water. The other thing that we don't allow is for one riparian to diminish the right of another. That means pump so much water that the neighbors don't have water anymore. And that's why the well, the picture with the house and the two wells, if you're a large volume water user in Michigan or Indiana, and there's court cases in the adjacent Great Lakes states, if you're a large volume water user and you dry up the neighbor's well, you will replace the neighbor's well. And it's been very consistent through legal actions, but you can use the water. The Great Lakes states entered into something called the Great Lake Compact that allowed the governments in those states and provinces in Canada to prohibit transfer of water out of the Great Lakes area. Part of that trade was that we had to prove that we were managing the water in the area. And because of that, the Great Lakes Charter, which Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and the two provinces in Canada next to the Great Lakes have all signed. They go through a process of management, which is going to be registration and reporting. The threshold is if you have a capacity to pump more than 70 gallons a minute for your operation, and it's commercial, in other words, you plan on making money, then you have to register and report. Some states have higher limits up in the 2 million gallons per day limit area. A permit is required, but agriculture rarely gets into that